You want to know the difference between teaching in a charter school versus a public school district, and in this video, I've got the answer. Let's check it out. I'm going to do an update on a video I made last year talking about the pros and cons of teaching in a charter school and a public school. Now, after this school year, now I have 4 years worth of experience in a public school district, in 3 different public school districts, and 4 years worth of experience in charter school districts. So I want to look at the 5 takeaways that I named last year and see if they are still true. Some of them are, and some of them are not. But before we dive into it, I want to let you know that this video is brought to you by my course, Actually Achieve Goals in Your Class. It's a guide to using the SMART goal framework, and it goes beyond the obvious and it gets deep into why goal setting matters, how to use goal setting with your classroom, and gives you clear, exclusive tools and resources that you can use with your students this year to actually achieve the goals that you set. More information in the description below. So, if you haven't seen the first version of this video, I'll link it below as well. But in a nutshell, I reflected on my experience teaching in a public school districts and teaching in charter schools and took away 5 of my key lessons that I learned. And I wanted to give advice to anybody considering employment in either one of these types of schools. So I'm going to screen grab those 5 points from the last video, and I'm going to react to them and let you know if they still hold weight here in 2022 or if they need to be adjusted. Again, just as a reminder, these were based off of my experiences. It may not be true for every single school in the nation, but let's talk about it in the comments below. Here goes the first one.
Public school kids and charter school kids can definitely be the same kids.
So this is still valid, 100%. And actually, we can look at this graph right here that shows that charter schools are actually growing in popularity. Since 2005, the number of charter school campuses have doubled and the number of charter school enrollment has tripled, and that looks like it's just going to continue to grow. So since that is the case, obviously more students are enrolling in charter schools. So obviously now we have very similar students. And a big reason for this is the effects that the pandemic had on learning loss. A lot of families are wondering different ways and strategies how to get creative to recoup the learning that was lost when they were a part of a public school. So maybe the charter school offers different programs. Maybe they offer virtual learning. Maybe they offer STEM or hands-on or more of a Montessori approach. And parents are looking for different ways to re-engage their students to help correct what has happened over the last couple of years. So they're looking to charter schools. But at any rate, charter schools are growing. So clearly we notice that we have an influx of students that are a positive impact on the campus. And we also have students that are coming clearly just because they were forced and they have no reason, they don't want to be here at all. And we can definitely tell. But the point here is that there are all types of students coming. So it's not like if you work in a charter school, you're avoiding a certain demographic. Public school students and public charter school students are the same types of students, unless the charter school does some sneaky things to only appeal to a certain demographic. And I mentioned those things in the first video, and I'm going to mention those 3 things again with 2 bonuses. So the 3 things that some charters do to circumvent certain demographics are transportation, lunch, and the application process. With transportation, if the school doesn't offer busing, that means that they're only appealing to an audience or to families that can afford to get their students to school every single day. If they don't offer lunch on campus, whether it's hot lunch or cold lunch, if they don't offer lunch, again, they're now appealing to families that can afford to provide lunch for their students every single day. And if the application process is not broad, if they're not sending out social media updates or they're not reaching out via radio or newsletter, whatever it is, but their application process is more by word of mouth and nobody knows when that lottery window opens or closes, and they're really just talking to a small group of people and they're really cutting out some people. So public charter schools are supposed to be equitable and access free to everybody, but charter schools do some of these things so that they can cut out certain demographics. And I hope you're reading between the lines here to see which demographic they're trying to cut out and which demographic they're trying to appeal to. And here are the 2 bonuses that I mentioned. 2 bonuses that I realized over the last year is that they also implement strict uniform policies or hidden activity fees. Again, charter schools should be tuition free, but when they enforce a strict uniform policy, meaning you can only wear this uniform with the school logo that you have to buy from this company that is this amount of money, then obviously you're saying to somebody who can't afford that you can't attend this school. If they're really enforcing that policy, you can't just go to Walmart and buy a blue shirt. No, you need to get it from this company with the school logo embroidered, and it has to cost this amount of money. Families that can't afford it won't attend this school. And the same thing with the hidden activity fees. Again, it's supposed to be tuition free, but sometimes they'll implement a year student activity fee, $200, $250, that they make mandatory for every student. And they say that it goes towards student activities or things of that nature. Again, families that can't afford to pay this will look elsewhere to go to a different school. So charter school students can be the same students as public school students. But if you are wondering what type of demographic they actually appeal to, ask the questions about those 5 things that I just mentioned and see if they are intentionally trying to keep a certain demographic away. Here goes the next update.
You don't need to be a highly qualified educator to be employed in a charter school.
So this one I'll say needs to be updated. So as charter schools are becoming more popular, like we mentioned before, there's a push to have more strict requirements for teachers. So check your local state guidelines, but where I live in North Carolina, right now there is a standard that 50% of the charter school teachers need to be licensed or on the path to attaining their license. So I anticipate that this requirement is going to continue to increase as charter schools are going to be, as they're becoming more popular and they're trying to remain competitive. And in the last video, I said that if you don't have a license, that going to a charter school will be a lot easier way to get your foot in the door in education. And I will double down on that, but I'll also say that with the great resignation that we're a part of right now, where people are leaving education in droves, it is also a little bit easier to get into public schools without a license as well. But on the flip side, if you already do have a license, I have noticed that people with licenses that are applying at charter schools are noticing that they can negotiate salary, because as the charter schools are trying to hit this 50% threshold and making sure that they hire teachers who are highly qualified, they are offering financial incentives where possible so that they can stay competitive with the public school district. So they know that the applicant has options and they want to make sure that they are the most appealing to the applicant. So I've seen that they are offering financial incentives. So ask about that if you have a license and you're applying in a charter school or public school. Let's see who can offer to bring you on board. All right. And I just want to let you know that this is my second time talking about charter schools versus public schools, but this is not all I talk about on this channel. My whole goal is to give teachers tools, tips, and resources to help develop students' life skills, mindsets, and characters. So I would really love if you subscribe by hitting the blue icon there on the right side of your screen, because that lets me know that you find value in the things that I produce. If you want to browse the rest of the channel to see what other value I can provide to you as a teacher, and if you want to dive into resources and lesson plans and things that you can actually use with your students to develop their life skills, mindsets, and character, the TPT store is linked down below. The next one.
Oftentimes, there's a lack of financial resources.
I'll say that this one needs to be updated. In my first video, I had only been exposed to 2 very similar charter schools, but now I've seen more charter schools, some that are in far worse situations and some that are in far better situations. I've seen a school that is currently renting in an old church activity center, and I've seen another school where their gym is like better than the university that I attended. It's amazing. So the update here is that there's a huge difference between the amount of money that a charter school could have. And some of them, they're struggling and wondering if they're able to be operational next year. And some of them are sitting pretty with a lot of money. Absolutely. But in public school districts, they're more consistent with how they allocate the money to the school within their district. So you'll see more consistency between schools that are within the same public school district. Charter schools, wide different varieties. So my suggestion here is, if you're looking for employment in a charter school or even in a public school, I would highly suggest that you see if you can walk the campus before you sign the contract, just to get a feel for what the facilities are like, as well as what kind of access they have to technology, resources, curriculum, and things of that nature before you sign on the dotted line. I definitely made that mistake, and I did a whole contract via Zoom, and then when I showed up on campus, it was not exactly what I expected. No regrets, but I wish I would have known before getting there. Here goes the next one.
In charter schools, people wear multiple hats.
And this one, I doubled down, I tripled down 100%, especially now in 2022. We're searching for teachers to fill classrooms, we're searching for subs. A lot of charter schools now have to have an all hands on deck approach, because there's just that much of a need. I know a charter school principal who is principaling as well as teaching in a math classroom. I know that there was someone we hired as a behavioral management specialist just to deal with behaviors who is now taking over a second grade classroom. And me, myself, hired as an instructional coach. I'm also splitting duties as testing coordinator and every now and then in the first grade classroom, as we all kind of share that responsibility as we're searching for a teacher. So it's definitely a all hands-on approach. We're wearing multiple hats because there's such a need. And honestly, I haven't worked in a public school since pre-pandemic, and I know that they're struggling with staffing as well. But if you know, let me know in the comment section down below how public schools are dealing with the lack of staffing. But I know in charter schools, absolutely be prepared to wear multiple hats. Here we go.
At the charter school is a lot more hands-on.
So as of right now, this is still true, but actually I anticipate that it's going to change soon. Again, as charter schools are becoming more popular, now they're increasing their expectations for performance. And you know that you have to inspect what you expect. And as we're expecting greatness, I do anticipate that the inspection process, the teacher evaluation, is going to become more rigorous, and they're going to be more hands-on, and they're going to be more uniform in their approach and a little less hands-off and a little less autonomy. But as of right now, there still is. But I will also say that if you're getting results in your classroom, you're probably going to be left alone. And that goes for charter school, that goes for public school as well. Because regardless of the school that you teach in, charter school, public, whatever it is, the fact of the matter is that our priority is to grow students and to help students realize their full potential. And an amazing way to do that is by setting and achieving goals, because what goal setting does is it gets students invested in growth. And like I always say, we can take willingness and turn it into mastery. So I'm gonna leave you right now with this exclusive sneak peek of the course that I created, Actually Achieving Goals with Your Students. I'm so excited about launching it. Click the link in the description below to get your seat. Let's check it out.
But now that we know where we want to end up, it's not enough to just set it and forget it. See, a lot of people treat goals as just a setting it and forgetting it type of situation, and that's not it at all. A lot of times we feel like we put in so much work pre-planning. We made sure that it is effective and all those things that I just mentioned, and now that it's a strong goal or a smart goal, I can set it, and now at the end of the year or whenever the time is up, then I can look back at it and see how effective it was or how effective I was in achieving it. But that's not an effective way to actually achieve the goals. See, if you only set a SMART goal, your outcomes are either I achieve it or I don't. But if you incorporate now this evaluation process that I'm about to dive into, if you incorporate the evaluate phase, now you're increasing the likelihood that you'll actually achieve it because you are assessing your progress along the way.